As a child, I remembered it being full of sunshine, but I don't think it was. Similar to what it is now. We had lovely summers, very cold winters in Baxenden, with it being on a hill.
Baxenden was so nice, you know. Yeah, we were just all the same. We all looked after one another and enjoyed playing out in the evenings, which was good to do in the 1940s. Very few cars in Baxenden, only the people that really, you know, had good positions had cars. We lived on the main road, and to see a car parked outside in those days was quite something.
I don't remember much unemployment, although there would have been some. I don't remember any.
There was a lot of shops in Baxenden.
Yeah.
A lot of little shops.
Oh yeah, there were loads.
Yeah.
I bet there were about 30 shops in Baxenden.
It was the co-op shop where you could get everything you wanted, your groceries, your biscuits, your tea.
There were the butchers
Yeah.
and newsagents.
Yeah.
We had a draper's on Manchester Road that sold socks and tights. We had 2 paper shops,
Post office,
Yeah.
and then the haberdashery shop.
That's right.
and with baker's shops.
2 confectioners, weren't there?
Yeah. Chip shop.
Chip shop. Chip shop's been there forever, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And next to the fish and chip shop there was a gentleman's shop, and he was called Jackie Wilkinson, and he made clogs and repaired shoes, and he made some wonderful clogs because a lot of children, me included, started school in clogs.
Bashers wore clogs, which were nice. We could have them coloured green, red or black.
Well, I was born in 1940. I went to Baxenden Primary School. I went at the age of 3, and it was a very happy time. The teachers were really good.
We used to go to bed every afternoon for half an hour maybe.
Yeah.
And then there weren't many children at school then.
3 different years were taught in the one big classroom. So you started in at the left-hand side, and then as the children at the right-hand side left school, we all moved up one, and that was the way that we were taught. Now, some of the teachers were very, very nice and very, very kind, but the headmaster at that time was very strict.
Some of the teachers were horrible. I didn't go to Baxenden School. I went to Ambryn Park, and there was a teacher there. He was a bad piece of work, and he had a load of wooden rulers. We had wooden rulers at the time. We didn't have plastic rulers. We had wooden ones, and he used to have a handful of those. He used to walk behind the rows of desks, and he'd hit you back at head with him. It was horrible.
Just occasionally, the cane was used, and I had it once, which wasn't a very pleasant experience.
We had very old cast iron radiators, which were very cold in the winter time, and we had to sit around them to keep warm. And the toilets were outside, so that was quite difficult, especially in the winter time when the yard was full of snow and we all had to go out to use the toilet.
This area of Lancashire was highly industrial. We had lots of mills, and there was a lot of factory work then. So for a lot of girls, for example, I don't know what percentage it would be, but probably 80 or 90% of girls leaving school in the 1950s or 60s, they would be going straight to work in a mill.
Whistle used to go at 7:30, and then it went again 12 o'clock, and then be back, and then it again at 1, and then they finished at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was about 20, I had a job delivering potatoes off a flatbed truck, and I used to go all up the Ribble Valley and sometimes up through Baxenden, and I used to have to turn left at Rising Bridge and go up to the farm, knock on the farmer's door, and his wife would make me a cup of tea, and she'd go cutting all the parsley down, and the parsley went back down, and they used to sell the parsley locally Like the vegetables came from John Tommy Taylor's at Hill Street. All the produce was local, you see.
I lived on a farm when, well, all my life really, till we got married, and then we had a milk round. Yeah, you had a little van.
Yeah, yeah, he used to come round to the houses, yeah.
Yeah, and John Tommy Taylor.
Yeah.
He had the horse and cart, and he used to have fish on, didn't he? And catfish switches.
Oh,
They didn't do SATs or anything like that. They had something called the 11 plus. And the thing was, the Education Authority decided that if you didn't pass the test, they would decide which secondary modern school you would go to. And it was based entirely on your father's occupation. So my father was an engineer. So because of his job, when I left school, I would be doing what my dad did. And they also did the same with the girls. So if your mother was a secretary, then the idea was that you would be a secretary.
And I left school in 1955. I was 15. I left school in Baxenden on a Friday, and I started work in Accrington on the Monday. And I went to work in an architect's office as a shorthand typist, which was, I'm trained to do that from school.
I left school at 18, that would be 1958, and then I started my teaching in 1960. One of my brothers was a brass moulder, which exempted him from going in the armed forces. You've got to remember that in the 50s, there was still what's known as conscription.
We only had Manchester Road in those days and a few houses on Ashworth Street. But other than that, there was very little. It was just the main road.
Farmlands behind, both sides.
the biggest changes were the estates being built and the farms going, because 2 farms went then.
Back lane and all round there was all farms, lovely farms, and everywhere you could play in the fields.
Yeah, school would have closed, but if they hadn't built all these houses, because it were on the verge when I went to school. See, it made a lot of difference when all the children came.
But I do remember Hollins School being built.
And it opened in 1968, did Hollins, because I started working there.
And the structure went up on a field, and it was quite interesting to see it being built. And then of course it opened, and my children ended up going there.
It's just so different now that people have so many different things now to take them away from community. That's the thing. The community spirit isn't there like it used to be, with the telephones and television. That spoilt a lot, television really, because everybody stayed in then watching television. And
a big change is gambling. You know, you've got William Hill and Betfred and Bet365 and all these things. 100 years ago, you didn't have that. But what they used to do, they had a thing called Gambler's Cave. Every Sunday morning, I know they should have been in church, but they weren't, and they'd have wrestling fights and boxing matches and things, and people would gamble on it. And I know this because my granddad was a wrestler. He was one of those who used to go up there, and he got a part of the money if he won.
We used to play out a lot in Baxenden. It was safe to play out. We'd play on the wreck. There were swings and a horse to ride on. We played games ourselves. We were always doing hopscotch on the street flags, then getting in trouble for writing all the numbers on.
My fondest memories of living in Baxenden, going to Baxenden's church school across there, coming in here into the church every Wednesday for a service from the original prayer book.
No, we went to church, then Sunday school, and then we went to evening service. That were
At
Sunday.
night, yeah.
Yeah.
The church was the basis for everything that went on then. We used to put on concerts, we used to sing and dance. We did pantomimes with the older children, and they had a drama group, and we put plays on.
A lot of the concerts and the entertainments went on were for fundraising to make things for the troops during the war.
It was just lovely to come into the church with all your friends and everybody around you, and I don't know, it was just something that we did, and we wouldn't have got away from doing it.
Well, there was, something going on, wasn't there, really?
Yeah, and everybody knew one another.
Yes, they did.
Now I were born and bred I Bash, up on yon wild and windy hill. We at winter hadn't been at all, if snow wound up to windowsill. I trudged up road through snow to school, and snowballed till my hands were numb. Then watched it whiten out Tom do, while struggling o'er some simple sum. But time were best of all, not only 'cause day school were done, but it were downhill o'er way, and making slides were best of fun. Way clogs were made for winter time, and when the irons get real snod, they'd go fro church to Jackson's door, by picking off as like as nod. Don't think it's the Arctic Circle though, it's not a land of snow and ice. When springtime come to bonny Bash, fro white to green seemed twice as nice. Bluebells and mayflowers we could find, each in their little hiding place. O'er it thing, o'er it lobs, down it shuff, o'er it lawn, as through spring grass we used to race. Oh, Gradley village on yon hill, I hope that when me days are done, as thashes scatter into grass, they'll whisper, welcome home, son.
Hi, this is Charlotte from the Let's Be Foundation. Over the past few weeks we've been coming to church to learn about other people's stories and Baxenden stories. Over the past few weeks I learned that Baxenden changed a lot over the past years, and the people that live in Baxenden are lovely people, and that they know the full history of Baxenden. I've learned that Baxenden was a really big community back then, and everyone was friends because in the war they were all in the same position. They were all good friends and played out every night. One thing I learned is that people in Baxenden call themselves bashers. The main difference about the people is that that they wore clogs and different long dresses. They didn't have mobile phones back then, and it changed a lot of things now. Because back then they had more sense of community and communication, but now people stuck inside on their phones. They didn't have televisions back then, and if they did, they were rich.